Hey guys, Scott here with a general beer talk for you today. There's no beer in front of me. It's not a beer dissection. What is style? So for some of you, this may be very remedial for you. But on my channel, I have a lot of people they either don't drink beer or they're a little intrigued by it, to people who are extremely advanced in beer. So sometimes I like to do these general beer talks, just about general beer knowledge. I was inspired a little bit from the Craft Beer Channel, the guys out of the UK. They're a massive channel. They produce great videos too, because one of them was getting baffled because a lot of times people were considering lager as a style of beer, and it really isn't a style of beer. So he went in on a kind of a tangent on things and made me think about, like, maybe I need to put this up on my channel too, because I have some people who are kind of interested about it. So again, for some of you, this will be very basic, remedial, but again, I try to attract different viewers as far as beer knowledge in general. So I call this kind of the family tree video about beer and understanding about it, or the taxonomy in the more scientific term about beer. Okay, because a lot of times you'll get people who will say, I don't like beer, but I like ales. And there's kind of a general understanding not to be a beer snob or sit there at your brewery and go, that's the wrong thing to say, or whatever it is. But I just figured, give you this general beer talk for those of you who are welcoming to the beer knowledge, and for those of you that's too advanced, skip to another video, or this is not advanced enough, skip to another video. So this is not going to be an encyclopedia about beer, but understand beer is at the top of the family tree. Think of your grandparents, grandmother, grandfather on your mother's side, your father's side, but beer is at the very, very top. Then what happens is the first two branches off of beer, okay, is ales and lagers. The big difference between the two, let's start with ales, is they use a yeast called Saccharomyces cerevisiae, okay? It's usually fermented they're top fermenting yeast. They ferment usually at warmer temperatures. What that does, sometimes they'll give you a little bit more ester character to the beer, fruity nature. Not fruity like, your IPAs and things like that with hop character, but kind of gives some fruity esters. Sometimes there's phenols like peppery, clove character. And again, it depends on the strain of yeast, but you understand there's usually a little bit of yeast fermentation character to the beer. So again, that Saccharomyces cerevisiae is a type of yeast strain. So those are ales. Lagers will use what they call Saccharomyces pasteurianus, and that's a different type of yeast when they ferment the beer. That's usually bottom fermenting, usually fermented at colder temperatures, and they usually have less yeast character to the beer, meaning a little crisper, less esters, less other yeast-produced flavor components, okay? So that's the first thing. So you have lagers, or you have the ales, and then you have the lagers, okay? Now, with ales, and the other thing is, and lagers, color has nothing to do with it. You have ales that are dark in color, all right, like porters and stouts. Those are two styles. You have lagers that are very dark in color, which are like Munich Dunkel or a Schwarzbier, which is like a black beer, okay? So color has nothing to do with whether it's an ale or a lager. Remember, we have beer and ales and lagers. So you have light-colored ales and you have light-colored lagers. Like a light-colored lager would be a Munich Helles. And like I just said, a dark-colored lager would be like a Munich Dunkel or Schwarzbier, a Doppelbock. All right, so you get the idea. There are dark-colored lagers and light-colored lagers, which like a Munich Helles, your American, your Budweisers, like that Miller Lite. So again, it has to do with the yeast that's being used, how it's fermented, and some of the character. It has nothing to do with the color of beer. And like I said, with the ales, you can have Kolsch, that is a light-colored ale. You will have Belgian Golden Strong, like Duvel. It's clear and looks like Budweiser in a glass to a certain degree. Obviously, it doesn't taste it, but it's a light-colored ale. Dark-colored ales, like I said, are porters, and stouts are examples of a couple. The other thing about beer, all right, so you have the beer, ales, lagers, is that alcoholic strength has really nothing to do with it, all right? There are high alcoholic strengths on ales that are light-colored, all right, that are like Belgian Golden Strong, which are around 10% alcohol. You'll have beers on ales like Kolsch that are sitting around 4% alcohol, all right, and that's a light colored beer. You have British milds, okay, which are darker beers, or even Scottish ales or English bitters that are sitting around 2.5 to 4% alcohol, okay? And those are some a little bit darker, copper amber. So again, color beer. So your Guinness, which is an ale, it's a stout, is only at 4.3% alcohol, okay? So a lot of times people think dark beers mean strong beers, okay? And I've done a whole video on stout. So again, beer, ales, and lagers, okay? Again, that has a lot to do with what kind of yeast is being used. Under those categories, you have light colored ales, you've got dark colored ales, you've got light colored lagers, dark colored lagers. You have in those subcategories from the light colored ales, you have high alcoholic strength ones, and you got low alcoholic strength ones. And the same thing with the lagers. You have higher alcoholic strength ones with the lagers, and you'll have low alcoholic strength in the lagers. So it has nothing to do with it. So when you're thinking that you like beer or you're intrigued by beer, you don't say that I like beer. I like beer, but I don't like ales, or I like ales, but you start with beer, you have ales and lagers. Now, those are the main things I wanted to kind of address in this video, is understanding that how actual beer taxonomy or beer family tree kind of works. And again, there's roughly about 100 and some odd styles of beer according to the Beer Judge Certification Program, which is a nice packet. So again, you don't need to study it. I've mentioned in other videos, but just understanding that there are a ton of different styles of beer under the lager and the ales, which again are just immediately below beer, okay? And you can go into light colored, dark colored. So color will have no bearing on alcoholic strength, all right? So anyway, guys, just a, kind of a quick, roughly, I can't see my timer there, 5 or so minute, 5-10 minute video, just about the beer taxonomy. Hopefully that was informative for some of you. Probably my next video will be a beer video. And again, thanks, and have a great day, guys. Till the next beer video. Bye-bye.